to my YouTube channel. I'm Yanira, and today we are doing book reviews, my favorite books of all time, and my TBR, and a bunch of book-related stuff. So let's get started. So for those who don't know, I love reading. I'm not the biggest reader of like all time though. Sue me. I try to read as much as I can, but like with school and all, I usually don't read too much. I started like a reading journey like 2 years ago when I really wanted to get more into reading because there were so many like book recs and I wanted to be like such a cool girl, like, oh my god, she reads, she's so mysterious. Sue me. So like I was like, give me some book recs like from a bunch of friends. They gave me them and I saw like multiple ones that like kept showing up and I was like, let's get started. Let's read. Yeah, let's get into some book reviews, specifically off the ones that I've only read this year so far. So I've only read about 5 books this year. I know, I wish I could read more, but I've really have only set myself to a book a month basically. And I still feel like that's pretty like tame and good. So I have a Goodreads. Here it is. And on my Goodreads, I like set my goal just for 12 books this whole year. So it made me like personal achievements, which were I get like a little bookmark every month if I read. So let me show you my 5 bookmarks so far for January, February, March, April, and May. They're very cute. I had zero idea that this was a thing last year when I did use Goodreads. I wasn't using it like consistently. Like I got Goodreads I think until like halfway throughout the year and I had already read like 5 books. So like around this time basically, like last year. Let's get into my first book of the year, which was Looking for Alaska. I read this on my Kindle. I just pulled it up. It's right here, as you can see. Very cute. So in general, I love John Green as an author. Like he's amazing. He wrote Turtles All the Way Down, which is like now one of my favorite movies. And he also wrote the book, but I'm just saying it's one of my favorite movies at the moment. And he's also written Fault in Our Stars. Love it. Great writer, and he's just incredibly. Looking for Alaska is about our main character, Miles, who goes to a boarding school. And actually, it starts off really depressing because we find out that Miles has no friends, I guess. Miles, when he gets to the boarding school, he meets Colonel, his roommate, and he's friends with Alaska. And they all hit it off, and they love to play like pranks on like the boarding school because it's like very like it's like kind of strict over there, so they like to play pranks. They're like this whole thing. They love to like sneak out at night and you know whatever. Of course, Miles has like a crush on Alaska. Let's not be surprised. It's like it's literally shown within first chapter in. Like, love that. So anyway, but Alaska has a boyfriend. There's like this whole thing, bunch of conflicts. But of course, the book is called Looking for Alaska, so take your guesses what is going to happen. I gave it I think I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Of course, there's moments that personally me, I can understand because there's like motifs of like, there's like a labyrinth motif and the Great Perhaps. And of course, after I saw like analyses on like TikTok and like YouTube and stuff, because I wanted to take in every piece of media, I was like, oh, I'm dumb. That's what it is. I believe, I can't remember if it's Miles that says this or it's literally like John Green himself that says this, but he says, if you take Alaska's genetic code and add her life experiences and the relationship she had with people, and then take the size and shape of her body, you do not get her. There is something else entirely. There is a part of her greater than the sum of her knowable parts, and that part has to go somewhere because it cannot be destroyed. So I love that quote because it can apply to anyone. You can literally make the exact replica of someone and they won't be that same someone, and I really love that. On top of that, there's another quote. Once again, cannot tell you who says it. I believe it's Miles. Could be, I think it is Miles. It says, we think we are invincible, which we are, which is talking about like being teenagers. That's kind of just, you know, whatever. But it's a great book. I think everyone should read it. I gave it a 4 stars. a lot of people think like Alaska's like an annoying character, but I think it's just the fact that, think about it, she's not our main character. We are following Miles, and Miles is of course an unreliable narrator, and John Green didn't write, he wrote Alaska, but he didn't write Alaska's mind. If you want to go more into Alaska's character, watch the show, because I think it definitely explores more of Alaska's character and personality rather than in the book, because in the book we get to see only Alaska through Miles' perspective. But I believe it's a great book. So yeah, let's get into my second book, which is my February book. Okay, so my February book, and sadly I don't know where it is. I have misplaced the physical book, but I read it physical. Put it right here. We Were Liars was my February book, and this, I believe I gave it a 4 stars as well. And of course this is a repeating pattern, but yes, I personally loved this book. Goodreads has a 3.6, which is, if we round, it's a 4 basically, so just say I'm right. I personally really liked this book. I know that it is very much hated toward like book talk and whatever. It is basically a hit or miss. A lot of people can predict what is going to happen in the end. The whole point is there's this big old plot twist that no one tells you about. And in my copy of the book, for some reason, it literally didn't have like the description in the back. Like it didn't have like this. Like it didn't have this. I don't know what it was. It was literally like just what other like critics and like authors have said about the book. Of course, there's this huge plot twist. That's what it says. It follows Cadence, who is from like family who are very like old money rich, and they own an island. She goes every summer with her cousins and her aunts and her parents, and yeah, they basically just are on the island, and follows her from summer 15 to summer 17. That's like the whole book. I personally really liked it. I thought it was really good. What a lot of people don't like is the fact that there's like grammar fragments, things. I could care less about that. I'm sorry. I do think that a lot of people think it's like predictable, or on top of that, it's like repetitive. And I do agree with that. There were times that I was like, this feels like a chapter that doesn't belong in there. So I would really want to skip over it, and I decided not to, because of course, like, who the heck is going to skip over a chapter? So that's of course why I gave it a 4 star. But like the plot itself, I thought was really good. I thought it was very like, you know what I mean? And on top of that, I'm actually reading the sequel, Family of Liars, as you can see right here. You can see right there. I'm reading Family of Liars, which is, I believe, about her, not I believe, I'm reading it. I'm literally 24% in. It's about like her aunts and her mom, like the siblings. So love to see that, and it gives, I believe, much more backstory on like family, on like their family history. Okay, so my third book out of this year, my March read, was not sadly, but I read The Great Gatsby for school, which is why it's sadly, because like, you know what I mean? Like I didn't choose to read it. So I gave this book a 3 stars. And I think, yeah, no, I'm sure this is not something that a lot of people would agree with me on. It has a 3.93, meaning a lot of people have given it 4 stars. Good for them. I have my own, because I think it was like my sister's or something. I had to read this for school, so I feel like, of course, I have read some books for school that were like so amazing. Like when we read The Giver, loved it. This book, on the other hand, wasn't my favorite that I've ever read at school. Like when I read Of Mice and Men, I loved that. When I read this, I didn't. I don't know. I feel like the fact that Nick, our main character, is an unreliable narrator, we don't get to really know that much. Like there's so many missing details. And of course, like that's going to be in a lot of books. And sure, I'll give other characters like the benefit of the doubt. But I feel like that's what this lacked. I'm sorry. Due to like, if we're going through like literature perspective, and if I was like an English major and I was going to look at every single inch of this book, of course, I'm sure I would give it a 5 stars due to the fact that like there's so many foreshadowing details and details in like what the characters wear, or due to the fact that like Daisy throws like a bunch of of Gatsby's shirts and like starts crying randomly. Like, yeah, you wouldn't understand that if you didn't read it, but I'm just saying, you wouldn't know what scene. On top of that, I literally can't like any character in this book other than possibly Jordan, like, because she's probably the realest. That's it though. I can't like Daisy, I can't like Gatsby, I can't like Nick. They're all so unlikable due to the fact of their poor choices. Nick is an instigator, we don't like him. Gatsby is living in a dream world, and though Daisy is living in a life of, yeah, she's thinking of reality, she's also not at the same time, like, if that makes sense. So I can't like any of them. The only one that's real is Jordan, and it's because Jordan is mentioned how many times in the book. She's not a main character, so I can't. I'm sorry. I did relatively enjoy it. It wasn't like amazing, so sorry to my English majors who love it. I'm not one. So for those who don't know, I'm a huge Hunger Games fan. Let's not act surprised. I'm gonna talk about it later. That whole series is so beautiful and like beautifully written, and Suzanne Collins, love you. So this book has been thrown across the room, has been shut like this, has literally been like shh. She's gone through it due to the fact that it is so heartbreaking. This is my first 5 stars of the year, of course. Very much so. The fact Suzanne Collins saw the fact that a bunch of girls were thirsting over whatever the actor's name is that plays President Snow in The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and said, remember who the enemy is, and gave us this book. This book, actually, this changed lives, and I hate the fact that so many people think that this was not necessary, number one, and they also thought that it was just like, girl, we already knew this. No, we didn't. The perspective that Katniss gives in Catching Fire, my favorite book, the perspective that Katniss gives in Catching Fire, nothing. Literally, that's about 1 page in this whole book. Like, if you were to add all her details, 1 page. Thank you very much. We find, so let me explain what this book is about. So this book is about Hamish's games, for those who don't know. During Hamish's games, it was a quarter quell. This is mentioned before. For those who don't know, the Hunger Games, in this quarter quell, they doubled the amount of tributes. So instead of the regular boy and girl from each district, it is actually 2 boys, 2 girls from each district, making it 48 tributes. That's all we knew about like Hamish's games and the fact that he won them and how he won them. But actually, there's so many twists and turns, and this book actually made me cry so hard. Let's just say I don't like squirrels anymore. You're not gonna catch me eating a red gumdrop anymore. I haven't in years, but I'm not looking at one now without thinking of this book. And you will never catch me thirsting over President Snow ever. If you thought that President Snow wasn't gonna get any worse, I don't know who told you that, because he got much worse. And it's been 2 months since I finished this book, and I'm still not okay, so definitely prepare for the worst. And I also just think you should read all the books. My May read was The Crucible, was also for school. The Crucible is about the Salem witch trials, not like literally, but like essentially, yes, about like accusing women of being witches and whatever. So it's a play, I believe, isn't it? Am I wrong? I think it is. And yeah, we follow a bunch of characters. I guess our main character is technically John Proctor. His wife is like accused of being a witch. To be fair, every woman you read in this book is probably accused of being a witch. And it basically was written to it was during like the government and like communism and everything, and basically showing that these same actions that were taken during the Salem witch trials, if you guys apply them to this, which is basically what was happening in that moment, the outcome of what happened during the Salem witch trials will happen again if you guys continue to support communism. So yeah, and wasn't wrong. I believe I gave it a 2. Sue me. Yeah. This book, boring. I don't know. We read it literally like the last 2 weeks of school. I was done with school, and I felt like it wasn't needed for me to read. Once again, I don't know. I really can't give too much comments on it due to the fact that I didn't like it. Okay, so now that we are done with my books of the year, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go on to one of my bookshelves on Goodreads, and you can see this if you download Goodreads and follow me. And I'm going to go to my favorites. Okay, so let's get into my favorites. You can see this actually on Goodreads. I believe you can go on like my bookshelf and stuff. Of course. So these are my all like 5-star books basically that I personally really liked. I'm not gonna give a huge review on them, but of course my first 3 books are The Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and Mockingjay, which are part of the Hunger Games trilogy. These 3 books are only through Katniss Everdeen's perspective. Apply that to these. I believe that these are all 5 stars for me. Fight with a wall. I'm not arguing. I'm literally not here to hear you about you complaining about the Hunger Games ever. If you think it was a boring book, and if you think it's also for kids, it is a young adult novel, but if you think that you can only read it as a kid, get out of my face. I'm not listening to you. These 3 books, number 1, have shaped me as a reader. Number 2 are just perfectly written. I have found a common denominator in the fact that I love books with unreliable narrators, because Katniss Everdeen is completely one, and this is very much shown through this book alone. So I have a little Hunger Games corner. I will show a picture right here. Hopefully my hands are measuring out correctly. I love these 3 books wholeheartedly. I think they're perfect. I think anyone needs to read them. If you don't want to read them, I don't know what you're doing. If you're not going to read them, at least watch the movies. They are really good depictions, and it's crazy because half the time any book that is turned into a movie, there's multiple things that will not be put in, and it would kind of like ruin the plot. But there's literally, like, I can't tell you. I think the especially Catching Fire is like so good, and it literally just feels like the book actually came to life. On top of that, my next book would be The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Okay, so The Perks of Being a Wallflower, such a beautiful book. I do think that the movie and the book are actually relatively very different, even though the author helped with. I'm not saying that the movie is amazing. I watched the movie first, and I fell in love with it, and then I read the book, and I feel like when you can also still read the book, I think that makes it so much better, because though it is still predictable, though you already know what's going to happen, whatever, but basically, they're very different because The Perks of Being a Wallflower, Charlie only writes, like, in letters, and, it's like, dear reader, I don't even know what that says. I need my physical copy, but like, and then it's just a letter, and it's like 2 pages. In the book, of course, it's a letter. It's basically what he writes in his letter in movie form, but it's actually scenes rather than him writing to anyone. I think this book is like so beautiful. And it's another like coming of age novel that I really do love so hard. This has also shaped me as a reader. And I think specifically every teenager needs to read this. We read it for our school's book club, which is only like a few of us in there, and I really love that, knowing that I got to see like two people in there, which are two of my friends, like their reactions as we went on, and then watching the movie. Like, yeah. This is Good Girl Bad Blood, which is my favorite book out of the Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy. I believe I read a Girl's Guide to Murder back in like the start of last year. Then I read Good Girl Bad Blood and As Good as Dead towards like this time, so like June, July, like during my summer, because yeah. And I read this book specifically at night in like the span of like a week, and I only read it during night. And don't do that to yourself. And I learned from my mistake, because then I read the third book, which is literally like the scary, it's not like scary, I'm just saying like the moments, the things that happen in each book are like scarier and scarier and like eerie, basically. Read it As Good as Dead in the daytime. This one I read at night, and this one's freaked me out. Because I remember one time someone was walking as I was reading it, and I was like, that's not normal, I don't like that. But yeah, I read this one at night, and it actually made me feel like more like immersed in the book, and I think that's why I liked it. And I actually think that this is like, it's not the fact that it's the least favorite, but it's like what people would call like the filler book for like a sequel. I thought it was great. It follows Pip. You know what, you have to read the first book. Basically, she writes a podcast, but that was like a mistake. But yeah, this book was really good. I really wish that the Netflix series really just did a lot better and like actually depicted it well, but they didn't, and I'm very mad about that. But other than that, this book was really good, and I hope that the second season of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which would be this book, is represented a lot better, since this is my favorite out of the trilogy. And my last book out of my faves of all time is Dead Poet Society, which is another coming of age novel. Love it. It's about another boarding school story, actually, about a bunch of kids that go to it's a all boys boarding school, and they find out that their new English teacher, Mr. Keating, they find out that their new English teacher also used to go to that school, and he had a Dead Poet Society club, and it basically is following a bunch of poetry and English literature. I guess we could say our two main characters are Todd Anderson and Neil Perry, but yeah, Neil is basically what really is drawn to Mr. Keating, our the English teacher, and Todd Anderson is actually new to the school, and he's very shy, and he is Neil's roommate, and they kind of build that bond together. But this book actually, book and movie, has made me cry so many times. I have cried every single time I've seen the movie. Once again, I do think that this is a good, they actually filmed the movie well, like really good, and it really does show the relationships in the book. I'm sorry, I'm like thinking of the book at the moment, and I'm just not okay. This book hurt me in so many ways. And I'm actually really sad, because I did read it on my Kindle, and I actually don't have a physical, and I read it when I had Kindle Unlimited last year, and sadly I actually didn't get to keep my highlights, and I do want to get a physical and try to figure out where, because I think that book is beautiful. It's clearly one of my faves. So I was gonna do a TBR, but I know that this is getting long, so just check out my Goodreads and you get to see my TBR. I keep trying to promote my Goodreads. All these books are amazing, truly. Any of the books that I mentioned in this, even the ones that I didn't necessarily like, go check them out. They were all amazing. To be fair, like, I won't lie, I don't think any of these books were not well written. They were all well written. They're all amazing. Definitely go check out the Hunger Games series 100%, especially during these times. So all these books are amazing, though. I definitely do think that everyone should start reading a lot more, because beautiful. So yeah, I would definitely update you guys on any of the new books that I'm reading at all on my podcast specifically. So yeah, go check that out whenever it comes out. Go check out last week's video. I post every Sunday at 12 p.m. PST, so please go check it out, whether it is a podcast episode or a regular upload like one of these. I'm sure you will be delighted by my presence. So please go check any of my videos out, and in general, just go check any of my past videos, even the ones from 2 years ago. So yeah, love that. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.